Good afternoon and welcome back to the Streaming Cafe on Leon Avenue in downtown Kelowna for the final of our All Candidates Forums featuring the three candidates running in Westside-Kelowna. The candidates to my immediate left, incumbent from the BC Liberal Party, Ben Stewart. To his left, representing the BC Conservative Party, Brian Guillou. And to Brian's left, representing the BC NDP Party, Carol Gordon. The format will be the same if you've tuned into the previous two forums. Each candidate will have 2 minutes in which to make an opening remark. Then we'll go straight into questions. These questions have been provided to us by the Castanet newsroom, also by readers, and are coming to us on Twitter and on email this afternoon. They'll get 1 minute to answer each of those questions, and then at the end we'll have a 1 minute wrap up as well. The order was drawn prior to this afternoon, and the order that the candidates sit will be the order that they will begin. Just before we do get underway, if you are watching it live right now, you can send questions to us by Twitter at Castanet News or via email news@castanet.net, and we will look at those questions and pose them to the candidates. Now, without further ado, let us head into the forum portion and the opening remarks, beginning with Ben Stewart. Ben.
Thanks very much, Wayne, and it's great to be here. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody. It's been a privilege to serve Westside-Kelowna for the past 4 years, and quite a learning experience. I decided to get into politics because I'd opened a business in the 1980s during a particularly difficult recession period, and then in the 1990s when the NDP were in government. And frankly, as a business person, I realized that the importance of having strong support for free enterprise and small business was really important. And you know, I know that the community that I live in is filled with hardworking individuals, whether they're young people seeking post-secondary education, entrepreneurs, or seniors who have helped build the community. And you know, I'm really proud to be running as part of the BC Liberal government. And I want to just talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened in the past 4 years, just in our community. You know, I think back and I think about the creation of UBCO. It is something that is really a once-in-a-generation, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have the creation of a university and the skills and opportunities that those 7,500 new seats provide. Okanagan College, which is completely maxed out with about 6,000 full-time students there, and those two institutions are going to provide us with a well-educated workforce. We've already seen the enrollment from the Okanagan and those two institutions grow dramatically. I want to talk about the capital that we've invested here, $1.5 billion in the past 12 years. That's $1.5 billion of investment in roads, infrastructure, hospitals, and frankly, new schools in my riding. Shannon Lake's got an addition, Rose Valley's being built, and I look forward to the fact that many of the people in our riding are benefiting from those investments. So I'm looking forward to helping build a strong economy and a secure tomorrow.
Brian Guillou.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Brian Guillou, and I'm the BC Conservative candidate for Westside-Kelowna. I believe in BC, and I believe BC can do better. I'm here to introduce fiscal responsibility and bring integrity back to the table. All policies and platforms are designed to benefit British Columbians. The BC Conservatives are not beholden to any big corporations or unions, nor will we ever be. For us, there is only one special interest group, you and your family. I'm committed to the BC Conservatives and their pledge to do the following. We will govern with honesty, integrity, and transparency. Within 90 days, we will take special interest money out of politics by banning corporate and union donations to political parties. We will scrap the carbon tax, which is a tax on everything. We will make parents and children the true clients of our education system. We will help create a high-wage job that you can raise your family on. We will eliminate wasteful spending and free up money for healthcare and education. We will improve access to health care and reduce wait times. And we will support small business and free enterprise. Finally, for the first time in decades, you have a third real choice in this upcoming election. The BC Conservatives are that choice, and I thank you.
And finally, Carol Gordon.
Hi, thank you very much to Castanet and to our other candidates for coming out today and giving us this opportunity. I'm a school teacher. I grew up here. I attended school here, went to university here, and I've taught all the way from Peachland to Rutland. I have experienced some of the most vulnerable students, children, and families in our community here. And through that work, I've also been part of the Kelowna Child Care Society, the United Way, and Success by Six. And that's given me a perspective on the last 12 years of a Liberal government. And I think we have a real clear choice in this election, and that's more of the same or change for the better. So the big question is, what does change for the better mean? Well, it means a fully costed fiscal framework. We won't add a penny to the Liberal deficit. We have modest tax increases to corporations and banks that sees no tax increases for 98% of British Columbians and no tax increases for small business. We're all about a prosperous economy that supports good jobs, and we're going to do that through education and skills training. We're going to help small and local businesses grow, and we're going to invest in a land base to support agriculture, healthy forests, mining and exploration, and rural economic development. We're also about a caring society. We're going to introduce a BC family bonus, and we're going to reduce child poverty by legislating a poverty reduction plan. We're going to improve learning conditions, and we're going to improve home care for seniors and people with disabilities. And we're also about protecting our environment. We're going to fight climate change and expand our carbon tax base, have a stronger Made in BC environmental assessment process, and we're going to ban cosmetic pesticides and protect endangered species and strengthen BC's park system. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Just before we get into the question and answer portion, candidates to your left, Rogner is displaying his 30 and wrap signs, which of course indicate 30 seconds left, and wrap means you're just about out of time if you can wrap up your answer. Our first question, and we'll begin with Brian. I think by now, midway or just past the midway point of this election campaign, most of us know where your parties stand on many of the issues, but what I'd like to know and what I think we'd like to know is where you stand personally. So if you do happen to wake up on May the 15th as the elected MLA for Westside-Kelowna, what is your first priority? What's your first order of business?
I believe the first priority of business would be to, well, obviously we'd have to do the regular stuff of going to Victoria and arranging all our different situations that we would deal with there. As far as looking after things, we'd have to get into more transparent government. We have to figure out how to make changes, and that's the big thing, and that's the BC Conservatives, is we want to really make changes because things have been going on the same too long in government, and it's been so polarized, and making the changes is basically what we really have to start at, and take a look at how the whole system in Victoria works. Thank you.
Carol?
I think one of the biggest issues that I'm hearing on the doorstep is the economy and jobs. So I think we have to take real quick practical steps. So one of those is increasing number of spaces for infant and toddlers, and making childcare affordable so that everybody has the opportunity to participate in the workforce. So included with that is at the other end, the post-secondary grants, making sure that everybody has the opportunity to go to post-secondary, increasing the number of apprenticeships, and then ensuring that they actually complete those apprenticeships by putting in the supports to ensure they complete it, because right now we see a 60% failure rate in the completion. So we need to address that right away so that everybody has the opportunity to participate in the economy. And of course, we need good paying jobs that support families. So we're investing in our mining, our land-based resource industries, mining, forestry, making sure that we have the skilled workforce to support those industries, because they're asking for it right now.
Ben?
Well, you know, I guess the first day, I think that it's the start of a new 4-year term, and I would hope that one of the first things I get to do is to finish up some of the constituency work that was incomplete that we've been working very long and hard on in Westside-Kelowna. Some of them are the transition of Crown lands to the District of West Kelowna. I was fortunate just a couple of weeks before the election was announced to receive a sponsorship from the Ministry of Community and Rural Development on a piece of property that has long been sought by the District of West Kelowna on Bartley Road. I look forward to some extension of tenure and lease on Crown lands that the district or the regional district has been looking at, and as many many of the constituents have been having to wait in this past interregnum period where we haven't been able to operate as MLAs. I think when it comes to our platform, I think that I know that there's commitments in there that I have to make certain that we complete, and I'll make certain that I do those.
Thank you. Carol, you mentioned the economy, so let's go there. And we'll begin with you. How do you propose to grow the economy within the within the riding, of Westside-Kelowna?
Well, besides the apprenticeship that I already talked about, we see in this area a huge agriculture and agriculture-related industries such as the wine industry and the craft distilleries. So a few of the things that we're proposing is modernizing the liquor laws, and so that includes reducing the markup for the spirits so that they have a competitive playing field with the other products, and that's going to grow that industry. So we see it with that. We also look at providing direct sales to restaurants. With agriculture, investing $24 million over 3 years in a Grow BC, Buy BC, Feed BC program. That's going to help growers here get their product to market here within British Columbia and here to the people in Westside-Kelowna who are looking for more information and more access to local products. And also help them with their replanting so they can create products that meet the needs of the community.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, I think first of all, one of the things that the MLAs have to realize is that the job of MLA is to make certain that you are growing the economy, because without growth in the economy, you don't have the engine that really runs and pays for all the services. So that's something that we've been working very hard on as a government for the past 4 years. The jobs plan has been a tremendously focused plan in creating jobs, skills training, and to make certain that we really are opening up the resources so that people have the opportunities, whether it's in the Okanagan or throughout British Columbia. I think that the other thing that we have to look at is what about the Okanagan and what can we do here? Carol mentioned the value-added agriculture. Just in the weeks prior to the election being announced, we made changes to allow craft distillers to be able to direct deliver their product markup free to restaurants. We allowed them to have a system where they can do similar to what wineries do here in the Okanagan. So I see real future in value-added tourism.
And Brian?
Yes, the BC Conservatives are very concerned about job loss. We've lost so many jobs to people in Alberta and Saskatchewan, a lot of construction jobs, a lot of trades. I think we have to work a little harder into getting jobs as far as people involved in high tech and more in agriculture, more in forestry. And we have to create an atmosphere for companies and to actually help us to get this program implemented. We have to get more people working. We have to get the better wage paying jobs here. Most of the jobs in the Okanagan that are being created, especially here, are the 10, 50 an hour type jobs. So we have to be a bit more creative to get this done.
Thank you. Sticking with the economy and an economic question, small business has been hit hard over the last several years due to many factors, including the downturn of the economy, HST, etc. If elected, what do you hope to accomplish for small business within your riding? Begin with Ben.
Well, I think the first thing that we've committed to in our platform is to reduce the small business tax to the provincial government by 40%. The government has reduced the small business tax significantly over the past 12 years, And our goal is to eliminate taxation on small businesses that earn less than $500,000 a year. I think that government has to continue to focus on streamlining and getting out of the way of what makes it difficult for a small business. Take, for instance, if we have local government that is creating barriers in terms of licensing. I'm a plumber and I'm licensed to work in West Kelowna, but what if I want to work in the city of Kelowna? Now, that isn't an example that can happen, but in many parts of the province, that is an issue. And so we've been advocating for a long time that a single business license should allow people like that, tradespeople, to be able to work in any community across the province. I think that in the West Side, we've got lots of high-tech jobs that are not 10.50 an hour jobs, and I know that that's one of the things I'm going to continue to focus in on adding.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes, small business is the backbone of our province. More jobs are created by small business than all the large corporations put together by a long shot. And we have to encourage government to support small business with keeping the taxes low and just helping in creating the jobs that go along with the small business. I'm a small businessman myself, and unfortunately the HST is really killed a lot of the jobs in BC, but especially in the Okanagan. And you know, that's not a way to support small businesses by bringing on these type of taxes. We just have to help more to create opportunities for small businesses.
Carol?
I think it's really important that we bring stability to small business. So we're being really clear. There won't be any surprises, and there's going to be no tax increase. We saw the Liberal government was committed to eliminating the small business tax in 2012, and that didn't happen. And so we're going to be really clear. There's no tax increase. We're going to hold to that. We're supporting with our Buy BC, Grow BC, and Feed BC program. Again, that's going to put food into our local hospitals. IHA does a good job. 25% of their food is grown locally, but we're out to increase across the province by 5%, and give them the opportunity and invest in their products so that they can do that. We also want to bring in a Buy BC first, or Buy local first. So local procurement is going to help small business in this area ensure that that government and government services and other organizations are able to support business locally. Thanks.
Thank you. Nice thing about doing live forums such as this is the interesting questions that we get from the public that are listening in. And I got an email question from Deb Bourne, and it's a two-part question, so I think I'll give everybody 2 minutes to answer this one as opposed to 1 minute. And we'll start with Brian. Don't worry, you guys won't have notes on this. What does each candidate, each of you, believe that the strengths and the weaknesses is of your party leader? Brian?
Well, first of all, I met John Cummins about 2 years ago, almost accidentally. I went to a meeting that he had in Westside-Kelowna. And I sat there for about an hour, listened to his speech, and I was mesmerized by his integrity and his honesty. But more than anything else, what I came back away from that meeting was he said that it's constituents first and party second. We can vote and debate however we like on our issues, and if we vote against the party, it will not be held against us. And absolutely, that is my number one respect for John Cummins, and I think he's just an absolutely fabulous man. Thank you.
No weaknesses?
I haven't been around him long enough.
Ah, there you go. Carol?
I don't think I need to talk about weaknesses. I think the Liberal government has done a good job with their negative ads, addressing what they believe are the weaknesses. I'd rather talk about strengths and what Adrian Dix brings to the party and will bring to government. And it's what actually inspired me to run in the first place, and that was the idea of respecting government. You know, when I decided to run, it's been 20 months since I was nominated, and it was around the time, and it was right around the federal election with Jack Layton, and you know, it was the same time that Adrian became leader of the party, and I didn't grow up wanting to be a politician. It wasn't something I did. I taught my stuffies every day what I learned at school. I'd go home and I had the best educated stuffies in Kelowna. But since like I said, over the last 12 years, I've seen what's happened under a liberal government, and the idea that we were going to be respectful, that we were going to not talk about stereotypes of what politicians, the bad side of politicians, the idea that every party has something to offer to the process, that we celebrate when something good happens, and we then move forward, that we provide another perspective for government rather than simply attacking it. I think that's the kind of model I like to see in government, including me as an MLA, a collaborative model that brings all perspectives to the table. I've said this before, it's not just about having an open door when you're an MLA. It's about getting out of your door and into the community. I try to attend as many forums as I can. I did that before I was a candidate, and I continue to do that now. And I think that's the kind of leadership that Adrian Dix brings to the party, to all of the MLA candidates, and to government and to British Columbia.
Ben?
Well, I think, one of the things that I think people don't give the Premier credit for is the fact that she's governed the past 2 years under very difficult times. And I think being a woman is not easy to be a leader. I think that women often are criticized not only by other women, but I think that they're seen to be not strong leaders. And I think that those are two things that people would consider to be a weakness, which, to be honest, I don't agree with those things. And I think that one of the things about Christy Clark is she's a genuine statesperson. She's somebody that really, can meet other heads of state, knows what she wants. She can be decisive. She's certainly genuine. She's honest. And I think that from somebody that's worked next to her as a cabinet minister, somebody that has to deal with her agenda and in agenda and priorities, I can tell you that she's a taskmaster. She is very decisive. She wants to make certain that there's accountability in all the ministries of government. I'll give you an example. When she gave Steve Thompson the directive that she wanted to cut permitting time down in the backlog that existed in forest lands and natural resource operations, she committed extra resources and dollars to make certain we moved ahead. But I can tell you that she made it clear that we had to get down under the number of days that we were taking, which was causing us delays in terms of our economy. She has also given that same accountability to myself on cutting government costs and making certain that procurement is something that's open to all small business in British Columbia. So I see her as somebody that's got a great vision. Our platform describes a lot of what her vision is. A strong economy, secure tomorrow, make certain that we have a debt-free BC, and to make certain that we leave the province of British Columbia a better place for our children and families.
Thank you. Let's move on to healthcare. The District of West-Kelowna has made it a priority to secure an urgent care facility for the West Side. So far, that facility is not a top priority for Interior Health. Do you believe such a facility is necessary on the West Side? And if so, how would you go about making that a priority? We'll start with you, Carol.
Okay. I was able to attend the West Kelowna Residents Association meeting where Joanne Connert, who had been contracted by West Kelowna to do a needs assessment. And one of the things we discovered was that the use of the KGH emergency facility had seen a decrease of 20% from people who lived on the west side. And so that was an interesting piece of information that was quite surprising to the people in the room. But I think when I attend other functions, community forum the other day that was hosted by nonprofits talking about what are the gaps in services, we see a need for actually more of a comprehensive plan where we bring actually a multidisciplinary approach to healthcare, where we bring nurse practitioners and psychologists and midwives and other direct primary care service together. And I see that if I'm elected, it's going to be a priority for me to see that facility happen. And we also need to increase the number of paramedics so that we can actually get people to KGH, because that I think is what's desperately needed on the west side.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, this is a question that has been much talked about. My predecessor and the former premier made a commitment to provide a health centre. I think the work that Joanne Connert, who's the former CEO at Kelowna General Hospital, has done has proven that the term urgent care centre, which is a specialized facility may not be warranted on the west side, and that's what Rob Halpenny from IHA, in a public meeting that I hosted with the West Kelowna Residents Association about a year and a half ago, described what we had to get to. But he saw a much bigger vision of a care center that included services for seniors, radiology, lab services, the thing that people need on an everyday basis. And I concur that one of the things that we could do is that the advanced medical life support that is available in the Okanagan, I believe, should be more on the extremities, working towards Kelowna General Hospital, which is really about a 25-minute trip from the furthest extremes of West Kelowna into Kelowna General Hospital.
Brian.
Yes, I'd like to see a care center built there as well, but I have a slightly different vision of it by talking to so many folks in West Kelowna where I live, and especially seniors. We have a lot of folks that will go to the medical clinic, and then they may have to go get an appointment for blood work or x-rays, and they have to go to so many different places to get all this done. And then if they have to go to a specialist, well, that's another story. And I'd like to see a building built where you could have clinics and other medical professionals in there, so that seniors could go just to one place, and transportation is an issue for them too, for going around to all the other appointments that they have to go. So I'd really like to see this started, possibly a smaller unit, but with the possibility of expansion in the future as funds become available.
Thank you. Speaking of funds becoming available for healthcare, etc., with an urgent care facility, if there is one in the on the west side, possibly needed because of our aging population on both sides of the bridge. As we do get older, healthcare does go up and is required for care of those people. How does your party and how do you plan to balance the growing cost of providing healthcare with the need also to tighten government spending? Begin with you, Ben. Or sorry, yeah, I believe so.
To me?
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, first of all, that is a challenge. There's no question that the growing demographics, or the aging demographics in British Columbia, clearly have put incredible pressure on the healthcare system. And, you know, the people that serve in that field, the nurses, the staff that are working in the hospital, the doctors, are constantly at this barrage of new patients and the demands for services. I have to say that the government has been putting compound increases of 6%, you know, the last few years into that. And frankly, our budget in healthcare is going to grow by $2.4 billion, so that in the next 3 years, we're going to be seeing almost 50 cents out of every dollar generated into government is going to be going into healthcare. I think that the future where we have to look is we have to find innovation and collaboration. I know, talking to nurses and doctors in the hospital, I think that often, because of the system that we've created, that we talk about streamlining because of its size, we're not necessarily communicating with everybody within the system, and we need to work together to collaborate more.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes, actually, I agree with Ben on that point where it's a lot of the waste and duplication is coming from administrators and bureaucrats. And if we can get rid of a lot of that, and I really think that government and everybody involved, and I think we should get nurses and doctors and all healthcare professionals at a round table, several round table meetings to figure out where the waste and the duplication is. Because I believe that there's a lot of savings that can be made in the system itself. We have to grow the economy, of course, to help to pay for the healthcare system, and I think the two are combined, and it's something that we should really look at working together.
Carol?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think we have to look at putting people back into the workforce so that when they're participating in the economy, they're also participating in that tax base as well, and that supports our health care. We're committed in our seniors, for our seniors platform, piece of the platform, is to allow more or provide more supports in the home care so that seniors who are able to stay at home will have the care that they need at home. And then in the residential facilities, when they have to go into them, we're actually going to have higher quality standards of care. Right now, seniors get 1 bath per week. It can be as simple as providing 2 baths per week. And we're going to make sure that those standards of care are met. We're also going to ensure there's an independent seniors representative, and it has to be independent. I attended a forum probably about a year and a half ago where we brought various stakeholders to a forum at the Capri Center Mall, or the Capri, Coast Capri, and it was interesting listening to what the healthcare providers, those in direct service and those in management had to say what was lacking in seniors care. And the biggest demand was for an independent seniors representative so that workers aren't put in a poor position of having to speak against their employer.
Thank you. You heard it here first, folks. Consensus among the three. Moving on to housing, we have a shortage of affordable housing. This came from a reader, by the way. We have a shortage of affordable housing, yet many urban areas seem perfectly suited for new housing projects, but still sit undeveloped. Should the province play an aggressive role in solving the affordable housing crisis? We'll begin with you, Brian.
Yes, actually, I concur. The government should get more involved, but I think it's more complicated than that. I think it has to do with a lot with municipal governments and regional districts. The taxes and fees that are paid on new homes is absolutely incredible. I had a friend a couple of years ago. He built a new house, it was about $1 million house, and he calculated all his taxes and fees on it was over $150,000. So it's just not one problem, it's a whole bunch of problems together. The other thing that we may look at is my wife's uncle in Abbotsford a few years ago was living in an apartment. It was like a co-op complex, and it was a very unique system that they had there. He paid $30,000 to buy his unit, in theory, and he lived there for about 7 or 8 years. And when he passed on, the next person that comes in still only pays the $30,000, and so on and so forth. And I think that's really a system that maybe we should look at for low-income housing.
Thank you, Brian. Carol?
Well, I think affordability ties into the idea of families living in poverty. And so, again, I spoke earlier about legislating a poverty reduction plan that has targets and timelines. And inside that plan for affordability includes investing in another 1,500 units of affordable housing across British Columbia. Children living in poverty are families living in poverty, and along with poverty usually goes health issues. It can be mental health issues. It can be participating in the economy, not being able to get out to work for a variety of reasons, could be disabilities. So I think when we talk about affordable housing, it's part of a bigger picture. And I do believe that the NDP, I think, has a better handle on that bigger picture in terms of reducing poverty within British Columbia for everybody.
Ben?
Well, I think that most people don't give the government the credit that where it's due, and I just want to talk about a couple of things here. Low-income housing, rather than creating areas where, let's say there's low-income housing only in one area of a city, we came up with a program called the Rent Supplement Program, which allows families to stay in the existing complex that they live in with a rental supplement so that low-income families don't have to move. And the fact is that we don't get ghettos or areas where people are stereotyped as living in low-income housing. Our record is that we've created and added 21,000 units of low-income or affordable housing in the past 12 years. We have 70 units being built right down here in the north end of Kelowna. We're working on a project right down on Leon Avenue at the corner of Doyle and Doyle and by the Kelowna Daily Courier, and that's a project that we're working on to help seniors and disabled people together. So BC Housing is a great success story all across the province.
Affordable housing also touches on education and keeping the young people in Kelowna or in the Okanagan to use Okanagan College, UBC Okanagan, with tuition fees continuing to rise, the cost of housing on the rise. How do we keep the young people in the Okanagan so they can continue to use the education system here and hopefully stay in the area to use that knowledge? Carol?
Well, again, we've talked about skills training. An NDP government will invest $80 million into skills training. I've already mentioned the apprenticeship programs, increasing the number of spaces and ensuring that people actually finish those apprenticeship programs. We've seen in the last 12 years a cut to the supports, the counselors that actually ensure that apprentices finish those. I mentioned earlier about the 67% failure rate for apprenticeships, and I think we can do a whole lot better on that. If when we actually ensure that they finish those apprenticeships, they have better paying jobs, they can actually afford to stay here in Kelowna, which is highly, we have a lot of minimum wage jobs here. So we also are investing in supporting high-tech industry, the forest industry, I think, and agriculture as well. So again, when we create apprenticeship programs that support those industries and then ensure people finish, they're going to be able to stay here.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, I think the first thing that young people are looking for is they're looking for opportunity and jobs. One of the things that didn't exist here just 7 years ago was there wasn't a UBC in the Okanagan. The fact that Okanagan College turned out about 3,500 students per year, where it's now at about 6,000. So we've, more than doubled what the college is doing, added 7,500 spaces at the university. Those are placements that students didn't have prior to that. They'd have to go down to Vancouver. I heard on some of the science curriculum you had to have a 92 or 94% average to get into the program. We were not letting all of the people that could go into that, and they're not all, they're going to be, their entrepreneurs may not be the highest scoring applicants, but I'll tell you what, they've got bright and great ideas, and we want to make certain that we give them that opportunity. We've added $1.9 billion in spending in advanced education, 32,000 new student spaces across the province, and I think that the other things that we've added is bus rapid transit throughout the Okanagan so that they can get to the schools.
And Brian?
Yes, education is absolutely paramount in the world that we live in, and especially for students, in high school and entering college and university. Of course, one of the big problems that we have right now, there is going to be an urgent need for more jobs in the future, but that's maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road. The problem that we have right now is people are graduating from university or trade schools, tech schools, and they want to stay in the community, but there is no high-paying jobs here. It's like I said before, especially in the trades, they're actually moving to Alberta and Saskatchewan, or possibly northern BC in some instances. And the key to keep them here, if they want to live in the Okanagan, is we have to somehow create industry to provide them with these good paying jobs.
Thank you. Recently, as early as the last U.S. federal election, in that cycle, 2 states legalized the use of marijuana. There are many in this province, and the numbers keep rising of people that believe that that marijuana should be at least decriminalized. Your thoughts on that, Ben?
Well, I think that the federal government has taken the initial steps in dealing with people that actually do have a medical condition that it's been proven that this gives some comfort. So they've not only licensed certain growing operations, but they've also given people the opportunity to be able to get it under a doctor's prescription. I think when it comes to the wide open decision to just open it up and let it become completely decriminalized, I think that that's a question that the federal government is going to have to do and make certain that people's safety isn't compromised. I think a lot of people ask the question, if we do this, what's going to be the consequence? I know that Brian mentioned last night about, what's the criminal element that may be involved in this? What are they going to do if we take the pressure off in this particular area? They're going to move on to harsher drugs. I think that that's a question that we need a full public consultation on, rather than just jumping behind something without that process taking place.
Brian?
Right. Yes, I agree. This is a federal responsibility. The BC Conservatives themselves don't really have a policy on it. It's up to each candidate to kind of think about which way they want to go on it, because this has been an ongoing situation, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I do believe that there should be a full consultation on the whole process of whether it's right or whether it's wrong, and whether it should be legalized or decriminalized. And I concur with Ben, and we spoke last night about this, is that I'm scared that if it's legalized or decriminalized, the gangs, and they're not going to go away. The gangs are still going to be here, and their prime objective is to make money. And now they're probably going to go out and start selling cocaine or crystal meth or what have you. The other issue that I have with it, it's going across the border, and I don't know if a lot of folks know this because it hasn't really passed in the.
Brian, we have to wrap it up.
Okay. Sorry. A lot of people don't know that if you cross the border right now, and if the border guard asks you if you've ever smoked a joint, and you say yeah, you actually could be banned for 5 years. So
Okay.
this is.
Thank you. Carol?
Yes, I am in favor of decriminalizing marijuana. And, we talk about what organized crime is going to do with it. Organized crime is already selling those drugs, Brian. They're already out on the streets doing that. And so I think it's important that if we move in that direction, that we bring everybody to the table to talk about all the concerns that both Ben and Brian have brought up. People are concerned. That's a huge step in society. But it doesn't mean it's not a step we should be taking. We have community support for this, not at just local level, but at provincial level. 5 attorney generals have come out in favor of decriminalizing it. They must have reasons for that. These are people who are experienced in the criminal system. Doctors, police, lawyers have come out in favor of it. Last night, someone said to me, well, what about, and this was a teacher, she said, well, there's addictions though, Carol. You've seen that. There's addictions out there. Yeah, but when it's a criminal activity, who's going to come forward to deal with that addiction? It's just like alcohol. People who have addictions with alcohol, it's not a crime to drink alcohol. Those people can get services. We need to provide those services for people who have addictions elsewhere as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Municipalities have been hit hard with a downloading of services previously provided and funded by the provincial government. Since local governments have infrastructure struggles, like all levels of government do, but must also produce a balanced budget at the same time, how would you work with local municipalities to ensure they are not financially overburdened? Brian?
Yes, I believe that we have to have a lot more consultation with the provincial and federal governments in some cases. It's a very complicated issue. Nobody wants to pay more taxes, but everybody wants services. It's complicated, and I think the consultation is the best way to go about it, to figure out how to share the money with the province and the cities and districts to come to a good conclusion on how to get this job done.
Carol?
Well, we've seen in Westside-Kelowna, where I know that District of West Kelowna has not been happy with some of the consultation that's happened, for example, with the land swap, disappointed with that. I think the biggest move that the BC-NDP government is proposing to make is a standalone Ministry of Municipal Affairs. And when you have that can focus on what's happening in our communities, what's happening with municipalities, we're actually going to be able to better address the needs. And again, as Brian said, it's a collaborative approach. Create a table that everybody can come to. That's what that ministry will do.
Ben?
Thank you. First off, the ministry currently is Community, Sport and Culture, and when I had it, it was Community and Rural Development. Municipalities have benefited from advanced, accelerated infrastructure spending that has been greater than any period of time in the history of Confederation and Canada, and that infrastructure has gone into whether it's infrastructure under the ground, on the ground, above the ground. The government of British Columbia has made a point of making certain that we won't leave one unmatched dollar with the federal government. That's literally in the hundreds of millions, which I know that both Westside-Kelowna and Kelowna have benefited. I think that one of the things that we do know is that not all municipalities spend their money as well as others. And so one of the things that we took the initiative is to create a municipal auditor general, which is charged with being able to look at municipalities and help them find ways to better spend their precious resources and make certain that local taxpayers aren't burdened with unnecessary tax burden.
Thank you. Water is a precious commodity throughout the Okanagan, throughout the province, throughout the world. Do you have a strategy for helping our irrigation districts so we don't run short of affordable clean water? Carol?
In talking with the mayor of District of West Kelowna, it was interesting to hear the difference between the irrigation districts that exist on the west side and the irrigation districts that exist on this side. I'm not sure I know earlier Steve Thompson spoke about it. It was an issue for Southeast Kelowna, for other areas of Kelowna, but we definitely see a difference downtown here, which is where most of us, where most of the constituency is. I think we've done a good job. I think the District of West Kelowna has done a good job managing its irrigation districts. We know water is extremely important. It's the quality of the water. We see an expansion. I believe they're speaking about a new water treatment plant out on the west side as well. And so that infrastructure has to be in place to ensure that we don't see the same kinds of problems that are happening across the valley.
Ben?
Well, I go back to the fact that, you know, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into infrastructure and partnering with groups, and the 5 improvement districts that I think the caller is referring to is within the city of Kelowna. This is a legacy left over from forced amalgamation by the NDP government in 1972 in Kelowna. They left the 5 improvement districts on their own. They believed that because they were agricultural in nature, they would never have to worry about these type of things. But we found with Walkerton that the water standards, or the drinking water standards, in not only British Columbia but in Canada have had to rise, and so we've seen improvements like Westbank that spend $18 million to bring their water quality up to the Canadian drinking water standards and exceed it with their treatment. So we're behind getting money to them. We have support from the minister now to fund those 5 improvement districts through the Kelowna Joint Water Users Priority Action List, led by the City of Kelowna, and I think that we're finally moving towards a solution on that particular issue.
Brian?
Yes, I believe that the water conservation is probably the key element here. So much is being wasted. A lot of times you go into some farms, but a lot of homes and stuff where the water is being, I've actually gone by some farms where an irrigation system is going, and it's going for hours at a time, but there's nothing growing. It doesn't make any sense. And the same in our own homes. We use more water than anybody else in the world. Eventually it could run out. The other thing too is to try and get all the water districts probably to work a little bit together in cohesion to come up with plans for conservation and keeping a better quality up. And we also have to plan for the future. As the Okanagan is getting, eventually is going to be twice the size it is as far as population. Well, if we're only sustaining ourselves with the water now and a little bit left over, what's it going to be like in 10 or 15 years? So I really think we have to plan better in the future.
Thank you. Transportation, of course, is a big issue when people talk about the Okanagan, and everything from transit buses to vehicular traffic and moving people around. When the new bridge was built, former Premier Bennett was asked about a second crossing. His answer immediately was, yes, we should start looking now. Do you believe in this day and age of belt tightening and other infrastructure needs that a second crossing is something that should be seriously considered? Ben?
Well, transportation is a vital link for goods and services to get to market across not only the province but around the globe, getting to our ports. And so it is important, and I think that the government of the day made the W.R. Bennett Bridge an interim step in a long-term plan, which requires us to be thoughtful about where a second crossing is going to be. I've said publicly that I believe that we should support the City of Kelowna's ambition of having a second crossing somewhere, because there already is this bottleneck that's starting to occur. I mean, I drive in the mornings, and I'm sure many people that work on the west side that come into downtown see the same thing, and it's going to be more of a compounding and I guess a problem that is not going to go away as the tourism starts to grow right now in the summer period. So I look forward to the fact that we will make the plan and start to plan. These things take literally years, decades to plan out, and I support that.
Right.
Actually, I agree with Ben. The bridge that we have now, as beautiful and as good as it is, really is only a Band-Aid solution. It's a bit of an issue as far as ambulances and fire trucks and police going across the bridge, and as our population increases, we're going to be back to where we were a few years before the bridge was built. I think a second crossing is a good idea. It's going to be a huge capital investment. It's not just the bridge itself, is the roads that would have to take us to the bridge, both on the Kelowna side and on the Vernon side. So it's something that we should start planning for now, for in the future. How long that is, I don't know.
Carol.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Ben and Brian. The NDP platform speaks of investing in the transportation infrastructure across British Columbia, including the Okanagan corridor. So I think we do need to start planning now. What happened with the last bridge was that we hadn't, in a sense, probably had municipalities involved with that planning ahead of time, and so we saw huge issues with what had to be done on each side of the bridge in order to accommodate the bridge. So if we actually start talking about it now, we can actually assist the municipalities who are doing infrastructure work on each side with their planning, so that we don't have to fix it later on when we actually go to put in the bridge. So I think long-term plan is important. We need to start having those discussions now, and again, bring everybody to the table to make it work.
Thank you. Agriculture is a very important part of your riding of Westside-Kelowna, as it is for most of the Okanagan. Many orchardists in this area are against the GMOs, the genetically modified organisms. Your position, please, Carol.
Brian, I think. Brian, I think.
Oh, we're at Brian. Sorry. You're better than I am at following
it's the teacher in me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I've been following the GMO studies quite a bit, and I am totally against any food or food sources that are going to be altered. I think that's going to lead to huge problems in the future with health. This can work for maybe, I can see it working for plants or trees or something like that, but for the food that we eat, I am absolutely 100% against it.
Carol?
Yeah, we're against the GMOs. We've come out about that previously. Our critic actually introduced a petition on behalf of the community and the province and the legislature, and I really look forward to forming government and moving forward on those issues. I think they're important to the community. When we want to buy local, we want to make sure our local product actually, when it ages properly, so that we're not eating an apple that's rotten and we don't even know it. I can tell you, my son, that he would never eat another apple if that ever happened. So yes, definitely against GMOs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, first of all, whether GMOs are going to happen or not is something that is going to be in the hands of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, a division of Agriculture Canada. They're the ones that are tasked with making certain that scientific evidence is used to make decisions that are rational and move things forward. I think that I don't know enough about where genetics have been used, but think about in our healthcare system where things have been, linked to solutions or helping people with health issues. So I think that the answer in this particular case is the very first step that consumers want is they want certainty. They want to know if something has got genetically modified ingredients. They want it labeled. And that's something that CFI actually controls, and we should demand and expect that as a province. So I support the labeling and the identification, as with products with organic or anything else, and I think that that's what we should expect.
Thank you. Okay, Carol, we're starting with you this time, whether you like it or not.
It's going to be a hard one, isn't it?
And we have a Twitter question from Denise. How would you stimulate economic growth in Kelowna? And I'll stretch that to Westside-Kelowna.
Well, I think we talked a little bit about this earlier. So
you can talk a little bit more.
We can talk about it, get stimulated. So again, stability, I think, is the answer, right? So not increasing the small business tax, I think, is a good place to start. People should know what to expect of a government, especially a new government coming in, and that's one of the things that we can promise. And so we've also talked about skills training, so that when there are jobs, so that when there are business out there looking for skilled workers, we actually have those skilled workers. And then we're also, we live in a tourist town, so a lot of people are making minimum wage here in the Central Okanagan, and so we're actually going to tie minimum wage to inflation, and that's going to support families and people working here so they can actually participate in the economy. I think that's really important for everybody here.
Ben?
Well, you know, how do we grow the local economy? That is the job of the MLA, representing the area. You know, I don't disagree, or sorry, I disagree with my colleagues, first of all, on the fact that this area is around minimum wage jobs. I think that that is you know, the jobs that might have been here in terms of cafes or service and things like that, but there is real opportunities. The local knowledge-based economy that we have now, technology, aerospace. Kelowna Flightcraft has added almost 300 employees in the last 5 years out there. They've got contracts that they're servicing DNT, search and rescue airplanes. So these are high-paying, high-tech jobs. The technology sector can't find the people to do the jobs. Lance Prebo and the people that are the founders, you know, Lane Merrifield, trying to find people that can do the skills and technology. It's our job to make certain that the foundational skills are there so that employers can find the employees they want, and that's how we grow the economy.
Brian.
Yes, I agree. There are some good paying jobs in the Okanagan, but they're spotty. It's not generally good like some people would make it out to be, and especially in the trades, which I'm familiar with. Like I said before, there's so many trades that are actually leaving the province because there's nothing here for them at reasonably paying jobs. Alberta has created a different situation. They've got a booming economy because they're using their natural resources to create jobs. There's other things that we can do, but we have to get corporations wanting to invest in BC and in the Okanagan, and this will create the good jobs.
Thank you. Time for one more question, and we'll begin with you, Ben. As part of the Westside-Kelowna riding includes a large amount of Westbank First Nation property and land. Over the past several years, we've heard about many projects with WFN, from a private healthcare facility to a casino, plus other large projects. If elected, please explain how you would deal with issues pertaining to these and other issues with Westbank First Nation.
Well, I think that Westbank First Nation, first of all, needs to be commended on the amount of economic development that they've been able to generate on their lands through self-government. I think that it's certainly, we talked a bit about this at the forum last night, about the health center they're proposing, and I you know, made certain that it is a federal government, Health Canada Health Act issue that has to be cleared, that they have to make certain that that's cleared. And I think that the fact that this doesn't go on, I know that many people from the Okanagan go into the United States or other countries to seek not medical attention, but to be able to get to either the front of the line or get certain types of attention and medical treatment that they don't want to wait for and they'll pay for. So I think that one of the things we have to work closely on with Westbank First Nations is a more collaborative effort to develop a sustainable economy. I think that in a lot of their cases, a lot of the orderly development is out of the hands of Westbank First Nation because of the developers that bought property that built on it.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes, actually, the Westbank First Nation, they've actually done a very good job. Chief Robert Louis, I've met him a couple of times, and he's a very, very skilled negotiator. And I have a bit of an issue with the overpass being built there, though, to accommodate all of the needs and buildings that they want to put up there. I've had a lot of comments from a lot of my constituents that are saying, well, you know, all this money was spent, and the prime beneficiaries of this $41 million Westbank First Nation. So I think that's a bit of a concern.
Carol?
Yeah, I think what's really important is that we consult with First Nations across the province, including Westbank First Nations. So I think that's a priority. We have to recognize their self-government, and we have to move forward on other treaty processes across the province. We're going to invest in friendship societies and promote and support Aboriginal language and culture within our K-12 system, and we're going to invest in and support economic development on First Nations land. And I think it's not just one piece of the puzzle. It's a multifaceted plan to support WFN as well as all First Nations groups across British Columbia.
Thank you. That brings to an end the question and answer portion We'll wrap up with a 1-minute summation by each of the candidates, and we'll go in reverse order from the beginning. So we'll start with Carol.
Okay. Again, I'd like to thank Castanet and all the candidates for coming out today to talk about the issues. I want to start with talking about the Liberals and their $11 billion debt that they've incurred in the last 2 years under Christy Clark. And in their plan, they've got $13 billion more in debt planned for British Columbians. They've increased their spending by $2.6 billion, which is a 6% increase in spending. But they've had 5 deficit budgets in a row. A BC NDP government will increase spending by only 1%. And our spending commitments are in balance with our revenue measures. We will not add a penny to the Liberal deficit. While we've seen the Liberal government spend $16 million advertising their jobs plan, BC saw a loss of 34,000 private sector jobs. A British Columbia government will set its priorities, or BC NDP government will set its priorities so that we stimulate the economy as we've seen the questions asked today. They're important to people of Westside-Kelowna. We will invest in high-tech industry, in agriculture, in mining, in forestry, as well as support those in our community that are earning minimum wage, because it's about everybody in British Columbia, not just about a few.
Thank you. Brian.
I joined the BC Conservatives on one fundamental policy. MLAs should put constituents first, party second. As a BC Conservative candidate, I am free to debate or vote on important issues according to the best interests of my constituents. The governments of the last 20 years have increased our debt from $17 billion to $63 billion a day. The number that they don't want to talk about, though, is every day British Columbian taxpayers are spending $8 million just to pay off the interest alone. The bleeding has to stop. As Election Day approaches, I'm encouraging voters to pay special attention to the credibility of the candidates and their parties. This election is about trust, integrity, and fiscal responsibility. I'm asking you to vote for Brian Guillou and the BC Conservatives. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ben.
Well, thank you. First of all, I couldn't disagree more with my two colleagues. This chart here out of the BC Conservative platform shows that the fact is that the BC Liberal government has had 3 deficits and 5 balanced budgets, and then it took over a deficit when it started out. So we've had 11 budgets that have been delivered exactly the way that we forecast them. So our fiscal story is one of strength. The fact is that we paid down the deficit from $14 billion when we took government down to a level of about $6.5 billion is a stake in the ground that we believe in a balanced budget and no deficits. So we have a plan moving forward that is comprehensive, responsible, affordable, and optimistic about the future. It's about a debt-free BC and a roadmap to getting there. I want to remind you that we're going to cut small business tax by 40%. Reduce red tape and expand trade to be able to grow the economy. I think that one of the things that the choice is clear in this particular election. We can keep moving forward, or we can risk sliding back into a have-not province. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates. And before we go this afternoon, I'd like to thank all 11 candidates from the 3 ridings, from Westside-Kelowna, from Kelowna Mission, and also from Kelowna Lake Country for coming out this afternoon. I'd like to thank the Castanet team, Melissa, who's been busy tweeting all afternoon for all 3 debates, Ragnar, who was doing the time for us on this and also moderated the previous debate, Trevor on main camera. I'm not sure who was on keyboards. And also, we'd like to thank the Streaming Cafe for providing the venue for us this afternoon. Manager Michael, on audio Scott, and providing the live feed for us, Joel. We thank everybody very much, and the staff, of course, behind the counter for making sure that everybody had something to drink to wet their whistle. I'd like to wish all of the candidates here good luck on May the 14th, and I think if there's any one message that we can send out to everybody watching throughout the 3 Okanagan ridings and throughout the province, wherever you happen to be, is regardless what your view is on May 14th, regardless of what you think about one candidate or another, just please make sure you go to the ballot box and make your intentions known. Thank you.